opportunity. If you are a judge, what kind of world you want to shape? A justice world or a prejudice world? Now, I think most of you guys would answer me a justice world. But are we actually living in a justice world? Well, I grew up in Malaysia, and this is a country that consists of diverse cultures. Well, I pretty much appreciate that. But at the same time, the news that happens every day guided me to explore more about human rights that should be entitled to every individual, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or nationality. So what do you think about human rights? I know for you guys, it might sound like an abstract concept, and you probably wonder what is it for. Well, have you guys ever thought about what the foundation of a just and inclusive society is? It is human rights. So now let me give you a brief introduction about human rights itself. They ensure that everyone is treated with fairness and equality, and human rights encompass a wide range of principles, including the right to life, liberty, the security of a person, and also the right to participate in cultural, social, and political aspects in this society. However, this concept is still not widespread yet, and this is significantly impacting our life. I'll explain why. Now, I feel that we are extremely lucky because we are protected by the law. In 2018, there was a discrimination case between Lee and Ash's Baking Company, and Lee, who is a gay rights activist, he placed an order with the bakery requesting to decorate the cake with the slogan, "Supports gay marriage." Now, the bakery refused to do so and refunded Lee's money. So now, if you are a judge again, who do you think is right or wrong? Now, you probably make a decision in favor of Lee, and that is totally understandable. But in fact, the baker is a Christian, and they could not make a cake that supported something that they found offensive to their religious belief. So now everything makes sense. The courts ruled that the bakery refusal was not discriminatory because it was based on the message but not the personal characteristics. Following the appeals, the Supreme Court overturned the previous ruling in favor of Lee and now made a new judgment in favor of the bakery. So what did this case show us about? I think it's greatly emphasized the importance of balancing the right to freedom of expression and also the right to be protected from discrimination. So you probably say, everything went well and the law is still protecting us, right? Yes, at this point, the law is still protecting us. But the next two cases I'm telling you must subvert your imagination. Unfortunately, human rights violations continue to occur in various parts of this world. Back in 1989, 30 years ago, there were 5 blacks jogging in Central Park in New York City, and they were all convicted of raping a white woman for no reason at all. The police crossed confessions from the boys, even there was a lack of evidence linking them to the crime. Instead, the guy who was the genuine criminal, he confessed to the crime in 2002, and his DNA was finally matched, and he was found guilty. At this point, the 5 blacks, they had already served 13 years in prison. So now, do you think law is still protecting us and still providing justice to this society? In my opinion, I think this case is seriously seen as an example of the flaws and limitations of the roles and functions of law in this society. Because it shows that it was the racial bias problem, but not the actual law was shaping the world. Imagine if the criminal did not show up at the end. Would there still be more blacks being wrongfully convicted? We do not know. So now, let's think about this question. The 5 blacks, they never committed to the crime. But why were they convicted at that time? Is it simply because they were black and the criminal was white? It is noticeable that the criminal was never a suspect at that time. Therefore, if the role of the law was to provide fair justice and to punish the real criminal, the law failed to accomplish these goals. Instead, the goal was used to perpetuate the racism and prejudice. It was the false confessions that threatened the 5 boys. And the prosecutors sentenced the 5 boys only based on racial stereotypes and prejudices, rather than seeking the truth. It is crucial to critique that the racial prejudice permitted in this society, because I think it is truly a shame to advertise the law as supposed to correct the human behaviors in this time. Because in this case, it is not how they work. And now you probably might come up with this question. You might say that the case that I mentioned above happened 30 years ago. People might still not be aware of discrimination problem. But in 2017, after almost 30 years, such a case happened in Malaysia. In 2017, Sam crashed into a gang of teenagers riding basikal lajak. Basikal lajak in Malaysia means they're modified bicycles. At 3 a.m. on the highway and killing 8 of them. Despite the fact that she was a responsible driver, she was not under any influence of alcohol, she was not using her phone, and she has a seatbelt on while driving. But still, the High Court sent her to 6 years in jail and also 6,000 Malaysian ringgit fine and also 3-year driving ban. The bicycle had no brakes, no light at 3 a.m. on the highway. At the end, the Court of Appeal decided to set aside Sam's conviction in April 2023, this year. It took 6 years to end this case. So now, let's think about this. Why was Sam suddenly being punished when no actions are taken against the irresponsible parents who allow their children to roam in the street at 3 a.m. on the highway with the modified bicycles? And the question of why a victim that followed all the traffic laws suddenly become a criminal, and the real criminal who broke all the traffic laws by riding illegally on the modified bicycles has suddenly become a victim. The answer is very simple. It is because racism. If a Malay driver had killed 8 Chinese teenage cyclists, would the High Court still have made the same decision? In fact, in the case of Sam, the irresponsible parents could not be charged, only because they are Malays. However, the death can be simply blamed on Sam, despite her innocence, only because she is a Chinese. So now, if these 2 cases are not overturned today, and justice is not provided, would there still be more serious and immoral social phenomena in this society in the future? We do not know. But what we know is, this is not a normal world, but a distorted world, which is horrifying because it was all caused by our human beings. If the role of the law was to provide a fair justice and to maintain the social order, the law did not work that way. And the criminal justice law system was not fair because it did not ensure the fair justice and punish the real criminal right at that time. It is important to critique that the racial prejudice and discrimination permitted in this society. And therefore, I'm here with you to raise your awareness to the internal societal problems and to protect our own right. Because we never know, either the law or the internal societal problems are shaping the world. So, back to the topic. Do you want a justice world? If yes, starting from me, starting from you. Thank you.